Hello, and welcome to Chasin the Rush. Today's episode is going to be a little shorter than hopefully most of my episodes. I don't want to make them too long, but I want to have some good content and make it worth listening to. But I wanted to cover some things that I didn't really cover in my last episode. I kind of gave a background of how I got into hunting, who's kind of influenced me, and kind of some of the deer that I've shot and kind of where I am now. But I want to get into it a little bit more, get into like what my vision, my goals are for the podcast and channel, and my goals for the season, because it's now the second weekend of the season. I started hunting last Sunday, hunted a little bit on Monday. Kind of took the week off, did some scouting in between on some new state land. Not new, but it's been a few years since I've hunted it, so I did some scouting. And I'll probably go back out tonight after I'm done filming this podcast. So let's see what that new state land has in hold. But I wanted to touch on the podcast and the channel, and this has kind of been a struggle for me thinking about like getting it started. One, because it's kind of daunting taking on this project of starting a channel, filming all your hunts, having all the equipment, investing all that money into buying the equipment, and all the time of getting it set up and learning everything. And I'm still learning everything. Like I mentioned last episode, I really enjoyed my time at college, and I did learn some things, but I feel like I didn't get as much hands-on time that I needed, and just didn't get the experience and didn't have the classes really that would have shown me what I needed to know. And COVID definitely did not help with that. That was a struggle. And then even like thinking that I was going to go active duty in the Army and joining the Army and enlisting in the National Guard my sophomore year and joining ROTC my freshman year, like that set things back, because for the longest time I thought I was going to go active duty, and so I was trying to focus more on the Army and ROTC, and that kind of set things back. It was kind of like, what's the point of starting all of this if I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to go yet, if there's going to even be any white-tailed deer hunting where I get stationed. And just while I was at school, ROTC was a big time commitment. We had PT every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We had class usually like Tuesday and Thursday, and then a lab on Thursday where we actually went out and practiced all the skills we were learning. So that was a huge time commitment, and so I really wasn't sure where I was going to be in the next few years. And so setting up this podcast and channel kind of got put on the back burner. The other thing I've been struggling with is with making this channel and podcast is I feel like YouTube and Spotify and all the other like podcast channels, whatever else is out there, Apple Music, Google Play, whatever it is just becoming saturated with hunting videos and podcasts. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like just everyone's doing it right now. Everyone's getting into filming. Everyone is creating a podcast. And when I was trying to come up with like a podcast name, like a lot of the names or a lot of channel names were taken already. And that's just going to become more of a problem as more people want to do this. And as they get the equipment to upload stuff to YouTube and create their own content. And I think it's great that people want to share their own content. I mean, I know, like, I wanted to share my own content and show my experiences and share that with other people. And I think that's great that other people want to do that. But that doesn't change the fact that I think the hunting industry is becoming flooded. So I'm not really sure what to do about that. There's really nothing you can do. I guess for myself, one of my goals for the podcast and channel is just to share genuine experiences, and I don't want to fall in the trap of, I think a lot of people will fall into this, and a lot of the like people that you might be familiar with on YouTube or on the podcast out there have fallen prey to a lot of the sponsors out there. And then the sponsors kind of dictate the content and the stuff being created. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays are focusing on producing more and more content, not necessarily the quality. They're focusing on quantity, not the quality. And I want to focus on the quality. Like, I don't want to feel like I have to put something up every week and every month. Like, if I don't have good content, something that I feel like is entertaining and shows like something genuine that happened to me during like the recent month of hunting or whatever, fishing, I don't want to put it out there. And like clickbaiting, I hate clickbaiting when people on their thumbnails or in the title will put something like big buck down. And then in the video, like there's maybe a buck that shows up, but they didn't even draw back on it. Like, I don't want to do that just to draw people in to get views or followers or whatever it's going to be. I just want to be genuine with everyone. And I want people to follow me and follow my content and subscribe because they want to and because they feel like the content is good and they can relate to it and maybe they get something out of it. But I don't want to fall into the trap that I feel like a lot of people have fallen into of letting the sponsors dictate the content or the number of followers dictate the content. Like, I'm not going to like push to get followers and subscribers so I can get my channel monetized. And if my channel gets monetized and I start getting a large number of followers, that's great. And if I start making like a income off of the channel and the podcast, that's great. But I don't want that to like consume me and be like my main reason for the channel. Like, I want to be the one editing my podcast. I want to be the one editing my videos. I don't want to have to like start hiring people for like social media or to film me, like, because that's part of the fun is, and part of the challenge is me putting or taking all these videos that I've shot and like the podcast audio and the video and meshing it together to create this cool video or cool podcast. And that hopefully what I just put together, someone can relate to and be like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And like, I kind of experienced something similar. So that's kind of my goals for the podcast and channel. I do want to grow it eventually, but in a genuine way. And I don't want to like force people to follow me. Again, I want people to follow me. I want you guys to follow me if this is something you feel like, oh yeah, this is kind of interesting and I kind of relate. So, as far as my goals for the season, I kind of talked about it a little bit, I think, in my last video or podcast, but my big goal for this season is to shoot a shooter buck on state land. I haven't had the chance to really hunt hard the last 4 years because of college, And I think it'd be really cool to get a shooter buck on state land because, well, one, I haven't been running cameras all summer, so I really don't know what's out there. And two, it's just more of a challenge. And I think that makes it even more fun when I don't know what's out there and I have to compete with other hunters out there. Yeah, I do have the family deer camp on the western part of the state. And if I end up shooting something out there or seeing something decent out there before I see something here on state land, I might be tempted to take it. And I'm going to try and film everything this season. That's something I didn't do in the past because, like, when I was at college, I would maybe come home twice a season, once for Thanksgiving and I'd hunt the gun season, and then once around my birthday and I'd hunt for bow. So I'm going to try and film everything, but the main goal is to shoot something on state land. And if I see something like a doe, if I see a doe early season, I'm not going to hold off on shooting a doe until after I get a shooter buck. Really, I'm concerned about getting meat on the table for the family, getting meat in the freezer. So if I see a shooter doe that's close enough and I can shoot her, I'm going to fill that tag. I have plenty of doe tags, but if I see a shooter buck before I see a doe, I'll shoot a buck. It's just however it works out. I know some people might disagree with shooting does early and waiting till after the rut, but I feel like on state land, especially where I'm hunting, there's not a lot of pressure. And if I take a doe off before the rut, I don't think it's going to hurt things too much. And I'm really trying to fill the freezer first and shoot a shooter buck. But yeah, it's not going to bother me if I shoot a doe before a buck. So that's one of my big goals, is to shoot a buck on state land. And like I said, if I see something at our camp, I'll take a shot at it probably. But as of right now, I haven't seen too many photos on our trail cameras. I don't think our property holds too many big bucks, if it holds any at all. I feel like it's more of a rut property where the bucks kind of just pass through as they're going from doe bedding area to doe bedding area, or checking the food sources. Just based on trail camera pictures, nothing big starts coming around until closer to the rut. So it could change things if I'm out there around the rut and I start seeing some bigger bucks. But as of right now, just nothing really shootable. I think there's like one right now on camera that I might shoot if I do see it. Just, it's got bad genetics. It looks like, I think it's like the left side. It's just one long beam, and then maybe like a point coming off somewhere, and then the other side's like a typical 8-point rack or something. I have to look at the picture again, but just getting that off the property if I do see that. And it's not a bad looking deer. Like, it looks like it's an older deer. I don't mean like 4 or 5 year old, but mature deer. Just needs to get it off the property, definitely for the genetics. So if I do end up seeing that, I'll probably end up taking that on our property. But again, I'm focusing on state land. I've got quite a few spots around my house that I've scouted, and then other spots that I haven't scouted that I might just walk out on the day that I want to hunt it and find a spot and hunt it. And I've got an e-bike on the way, so that could change things, how I'm accessing, as far as how far back in the woods can I go, getting to areas where people really haven't ever gone before. Like, there's hundreds of acres of state land around me, and a lot of bike trails and horse trails, and only a few like access points where like you can park. So I feel like having that e-bike, which should be arriving during this week, will really change things for me and how I access and where I can hunt. I'm really excited to get it. I ordered it from, I want to make sure I get the name right, but I think it's Stealth Hunting Bikes. Yeah, Stealth Hunting Bikes. They're custom made. I listened to a podcast with the owner and founder. He did a podcast with some guys from Pennsylvania. He was talking about them, and I was really starting to look into the e-bike thing. So I just decided while I was at work to see if there was any podcast on e-bikes. And this was like the only podcast I could find about hunting with e-bikes. And based on like everything this guy is saying, that like his bikes are superior, which I have yet to prove. But from what he was saying, it seems like his bikes are just, I won't say better because I haven't tested it yet, but they just seem to be higher quality based on what he's saying. He custom makes everything. They're single speed so that you don't have to worry about like the derailleur breaking from sticks or something. And then because it's a single speed and the way he custom makes the gear, like it can climb up almost any hill that you can think of. So that's pretty cool because a lot of places I'm hunting have steep hills and ridges, especially our deer camp. So it'll be interesting to see that and how well that works. But I'm excited to see where that e-bike can take me. But that company, Stealth E-Bikes, they're located in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so where I went to school, which is kind of cool. And then because this guy is custom making these bikes, he's able to make them cheaper than some of these bigger companies out there, some of the well-known e-bike brands for hunting. So that was another plus. Like when I ordered the bike, it was still pretty expensive, and I was hesitant buying an e-bike just because of that cost. But I figured that's another way I can make some cool content for you guys and see how it changes my hunting strategy for this fall. Because no one out there on YouTube, it seems like, are making quality videos with the hunting bikes. Like they might mention, oh yeah, I used my e-bike to get out to the stand today, but I'm not seeing many videos out there. Like if I Google hunting e-bikes on YouTube, like maybe one or two videos pop up. Same with podcasts. There's just not a lot going on with e-bikes on podcasts. And I know they're a newer thing, so I'm hoping to be able to use that e-bike to my advantage. So that initial investment is expensive, but it'll be, I think, well worth it for the season. But that's kind of it for my goals for the season. For now, I'm going to keep things on YouTube, posting podcasts on YouTube, videos on there, obviously. Eventually, I want to look at posting things on like Spotify, Apple, whatever else is out there, but it does cost money to do that. And so I want to see how things are going now, and if I'm getting enough views and followers and people seem interested in the content, then maybe I'll start putting stuff on other platforms. Maybe starting a Patreon account so that people can support me and I can put that stuff on other platforms. That might be another way. I've heard people do it that way. So we'll have to see. But for right now, I'm just going to stick with putting things on YouTube and seeing how things go. I'm learning. This is all new. It's all kind of a challenge right now. Even just putting up the last video that I did took me quite a while to relearn some things and learn completely new things. All right, I forgot where I was, but I think I was just saying where you can find my stuff. Keeping it on YouTube for now, and then eventually, as things grow, looking at expanding. But that's going to be it for this episode. Again, shorter episode, but I'm excited for the season, seeing where things go with this channel, the podcast, hoping to get some merch eventually, but stay tuned. Thanks.